On the field, off the field, sports talk, entertainment, and more. This is Sauce on the Side.
Well, hello there, Dippers, and welcome back to the Sauce on the Side podcast. As always, Dippers, I'm your host, Drake, and I'm joined by the producer, Mr. Leighton Pip Shaventone.
I think I think people who showed up there in the 30s, Patrick Ewing. One of the greatest companies of all time, elite big man, but he constantly got his ass about Michael Jordan. Now he has coronavirus, and if you look at the numbers, Dwight Howard is better than Patrick Ewing. I didn't expect Ewing played really, so I need to see this.
Not better than Patrick Ewing.
No, he probably not, because the numbers say that.
Probably. But yes, that was another guy who got hit hard and heavy over the last 5 weeks and had to make it 6 in a row. That's why MJ's the GOAT.
Yeah.
And our guest host today, throughout our quarantine, Mr. Thomas R. Shackelford.
Poor Patrick, yes. He's not had a good 6 weeks. Happy Memorial Day, everyone. I think we've all three of us have been out soaking up the sun, having some suds, doing outdoor activities. But before you got here, Leighton told me a pretty good story that he might have had the best weekend so far, just from this one story. He's got injuries. He's also got new facial hair. It's been wild. This has been a wild Memorial Day weekend for the producer, I feel like.
It's a little nutty.
You don't have to tell the whole story, but I just want to know the end. How you got to at least say the end of how you were laid up on the side of that boat.
There you go. Okay, so yesterday we go to my family friend's lake house, and I decided I wanted to drink all day, not get sunburned this year. So I pee myself all day long, and I do indeed drink all day long and never nap, and get very intoxicated. Way too intoxicated to be on a boat, even be around water. If there's a 1 foot puddle in front of me, I probably shouldn't be around that either. So it's like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. I wanted to show on the pontoon boat. And
A good place for you.
Great place to be, right? And I decided I gotta pee. So you know how pontoon boats have that front door you lift up and slide over as you walk out?
This is where you just eat it and you pee on the carpet.
Or you can just stand up.
This is where you just eat it and pee in the carpet.
Yeah, okay, so I decided that in this state I'm in, that I'm more comfortable if I stepped over the door and leaned back against it while I peed off the side of the boat.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So I did that, and it's going great. It's going fine. Started to pee, and the lake house owner told her son, "Hey, why don't you go push him in?" To me, out of instinct, when I pushed that behind me, I would turn around and look real quick.
Right.
In my left hand, I have my drink. In my right hand, I have the Johnson. And when I turn back around, my knee hits the door, and I just fall backwards. Okay? And my drink is in one of those 32-ounce cups you get from NFL Stadium, a free full one. That's the only.
What team?
The Packers.
That's why this happened to you.
So that's the almost full. I fall back. The drink just goes right over the leg, all the leg on the shoe behind me, and I don't go to the cup at all. My knee is caught with the door open. That little curve slops into the seat of the door, and I got a really, really hurt calf. I then straight on my back, really loud thud on the boat, pieced up in the air, and because my knee got caught in the door, when I fell, I didn't fall all the way down. I got stuck, so I swung. And when I showed my butt, hit the door and popped it out. So now it's at an angle, 4 to 6 inches off the door. And boat owner naturally pissed off because one, she covered in alcohol, and two, the door was broken. And my girlfriend goes, "Well, if you didn't tell him to do that, it all would have been fine." And she's like, "Yeah, I guess it is my fault."
The moral of the story is you always want to be the friend of the boat owner, not the boat owner.
Exactly. Never your boat. What had me cracking up is I just picture Leighton just Yeah, he said, my instincts kicked in. He
Yes.
just, like a ninja, he'd been drinking all day out on the boat like a ninja. Wow! Next thing you know, his wiener's peeing everywhere, his drinks flying on the boat owner, and then she's mad because he dented up their shit.
No, that's very interesting. That's probably the best outcome out of that whole story that I was imagining. Out of everything that could have happened, I'm like, oh, so yeah, it turned out pretty good.
Are you almost drowned to die in the table? No, I just fell back.
No, just strain your calf a little bit, fall on your back, and scoop yourself up and go for another day.
No problem.
There was no, what's the, oh shoot, I'm trying to think of the word.
Words are tough.
Oh, your pride. There was no pride.
Right. Oh, you
You don't have to worry about it whenever you've been drinking on a boat all day.
No, pride's out the window at that point. You probably should have just ate it, went on the carpet anyways. You can spray that off compared to knocking.
Probably just pissed.
Well, you wouldn't have fallen. You wouldn't have fallen.
Yeah, my calf would right now.
That's exactly
I
true.
I would have had that last drink still.
Yeah, and there wouldn't be a broken door.
Nope.
Oh my!
I would have had this good coffee this morning.
Memorial Day. It's for the veterans. It's for in memory of a lot of people. But I think about 99% of the people out there on this earth have a Memorial Day story where they drank too much and the proverbial sore calf the next day.
They did a poll actually. I think it was 57% of Americans knew the meaning behind Memorial Day.
Only 57%.
Only 57%. I think everybody just assumed that it was like a barbecue and drinking day.
I will say this is the first year. Our local, we got the big festa.
Ciao, baby.
The party's usually at my family's house. About two Memorial Days ago is when the big fist fight happened, the brawl for it all, the Royal Rumble. I conceded to say Memorial Day weekend was canceled for me at that point, and here we are 2 years later. The house is no longer in the family.
Yes.
Festa is over. It did it.
It's like Barry Sanders went out on top.
That's right, baby. That was the end.
If you have a fight that ends a party, I feel like the party's just forever.
The party didn't end. Like, some people went to jail, and I had to then host the party.
Wait a second. Didn't the guy come back from jail?
Like a couple hours later, but I had already cooked all the food. I had to take over the grill. So I was quite happy when Leighton showed up with another goofy Memorial Day story, so that way the embarrassment of mine could be sheltered a little.
Everybody has at least one. Everybody. So, guys, we have quite a few things to talk about. Obviously, we do have the fights this weekend. They are headlined by Tyron Woodley and Gilbert Burns. Should be actually a really good card, top to bottom there. We're going to talk about just some little headline grabs and stuff. Over the last few weekends, over the last few weeks, we have been breaking down documentary after documentary after documentary all over The Last Dance. And, guys, did you see the athlete that they chose to follow up Michael Jordan's Last Dance? Lance Armstrong.
Lance Gunderbeer or whatever.
Gunner
I forgot the dude's
I can't
name
remember the
already.
actual name. Yes. Did you guys watch any of that documentary?
I was obviously not able to, but
He was priorly engaged.
I'm gonna watch it.
You know what? I shouldn't have even asked you after I heard how that story ended.
He says, after I fell and hurt my calf, I watched all 2 hours of it.
I sat down and committed myself to watching Lance Armstrong.
Wait, it's 2 hours long. Part one is
Part one was 2 hours long.
So, yeah.
4 hours. Yes.
Yeah. I'm only about 45 minutes in.
I don't want to watch this one off. I don't like this one.
I'm interested in that because we had this little text thread. I said, the Lance Armstrong. I was psyched for it. I was pumped. And I get one of you texted back, I fucking hate Lance Armstrong, and then the other one put, I hate him too. I was like, okay, we've got something to talk about. I want to know why you guys hate Lance Armstrong.
So
Hold on, no, I'm gonna let you finish.
I have a rebuttal to what you're going to say.
You're gonna rebuttal my rebuttal?
Yes, I've already planned this out.
Oh,
I know where
I'm
this goes.
getting ambushed here, man.
So basically, the guy came in, and not just American icon, international hero, to fucking billions of yellow faces, and cheated, and never admitted to it. He got caught.
Oh, he admits to it now.
Yeah, he does.
It is a
This
Lance
is
Armstrong
pure
pity
ignorance
party.
on my part. Did he get money for the bracelets? I thought 100% of that went to cancer research.
I don't know. It didn't change it for me.
Look it up. I'm pretty sure he didn't get money for that.
I don't think he did, but he had like the Live Strong brand where you could get like the shirts
Yeah.
through Nike.
I have built Live Strong shoes.
Our high school had Live Strong recumbent bike and treadmill down in the weight room.
Did it come with a like a blood donor
It
system?
didn't make me run any faster.
It didn't?
I'll tell you that much.
No, they were so. I've always hated Lance Armstrong. Like, obviously he did do a lot of good. Like, bad people can do good things. And he did get a lot of money for cancer research. Started a whole new trend. The rubber bracelets. People, young people don't realize that the original rubber bracelet was yellow.
Yeah.
And if you had any other deviation from the yellow bracelet, you weren't cool back in the day. Back in my day, at least. So everybody had Live Strong bracelets.
Did you
they
have one?
Oh,
Oh yeah.
Okay, I'm just checking.
Mr. Shackelford, who do you think I am?
I'm just checking.
The cool thing was whenever you put the Live Strong bracelet on, you never took it off. So I would rock this thing for I rocked this thing for 6 months. And one night in my sleep, I woke up and the bracelet was off. So I had to smack it back on, act like it never happened. That was the only time that bracelet left my wrist. Everybody was like that. Did you keep yours on 24/7? Yeah, no.
It came off into a vote because I played sports and I got called on the V. So I was going to come off and be
He bragged about being an athlete there. I like that legacy.
I'm usually the one that drops old.
Yeah, we went down that road before. People forget. Two-sport athlete at a private school?
Right.
Or three-sport athlete?
Two sport.
Okay. I guess they didn't have track.
Hey,
there.
you might be the best athlete since.
I didn't know. I thought you had track your 8th grade year.
We did. That's one track. Football's not awesome.
Okay.
I had played that with the old city for.
Next
Okay.
time we're with Chucky, we need to get him to tell us the story about the time that he scored the basket for the wrong team and lost the diocese championship or whatever.
Oh no.
Well, you got to hear it from Chucky.
That's a big deal.
No, that's
It's a
huge
big deal.
That's cool over there.
Oh yeah,
That would never won it. That's a big deal there.
they were
If it wasn't for Chucky,
they were
they
a
would've
ball
won it.
hair away from it, except for our buddy Chucky scoring for the wrong team.
Anyways, Lance Armstrong. So everybody wore these bracelets around 24/7, dude. I had multiple Live Strong T-shirts. I was all about this guy. I'm like, here's this just American hero. He's doing all this good. He came back from cancer. He is the greatest cyclist of all time. He's the only cyclist that I know. And it's like he put it on the fort. Like he brought it here. I know another cyclist because of Lance Armstrong.
Floyd Landis, yeah.
So I know two
The
cyclists.
ultimate rat.
And I can't trust any of them. So he ruined cycling for me. He ruined my thought of only good people
He
do
can't
charity.
ruin cycling for you. You only know two cyclers.
And he ruined his good name to me. So therefore, I just don't like him. I've never liked him. It felt like it was personal.
Felt dirty. You had all that swag. You were repping him, and then you just had to show up for school one day, and you're like, it's like you cheated people.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Is that the same thing?
Exactly. It didn't matter if he profited for it. I couldn't have a definite answer if he did or not.
Good. Hey, bad people do good things a lot.
Maybe he didn't directly profit from Live Strong, but he profited from the Live Strong base.
Yeah, I mean, like his quote unquote brand. Yeah.
And then they caught doping. All the $80 million donations.
My thing was and I've never been big into cycling or anything, and I was older than you guys, so I didn't have all that fucking Live Strong swag. I obviously saw the good that it was doing for people, like you see that all over the news. The thing that I had this teacher. I had this teacher in junior college. I had him for a anatomy and physiology class, and he was a cycler. Legitimate hardcore cycler, and at the time I was in good shape, and
It's a wild breed.
He was. He had a ponytail down to his ass. You may know him. We see him every Big Muddy Brewfest. He is the dude. He is the Big Lebowski.
He's a cycler?
Yes, the Big
Wow.
Lebowski. We see him every year.
Okay. I like him.
So he was telling us, he always talked to me about shit because he's at the time I ran. I've never called myself a runner, but I ran a bunch of
built
races
like a
at the time. I'm built just like a runner. Even then, I weighed like 200 pounds. I was 80 pounds bigger than any runner on the, But he would talk to me about stuff, and he was telling me about the stuff he does and the rides and like all this exercise he was doing, like all the training he was doing. And I'm like, I mean, this is probably about 2005, 2004. And I was like, so are you like a pro or an amateur? And he basically was a hobbyist, and he was riding like hundreds of miles a week, and he was a hobbyist. And so when I started realizing like how much work went into it, and then he started talking about, this was before it came out that he had doped, obviously. He started talking about how a lot of people were accusing Lance Armstrong of doping through his chemo and treatments like that, because he was doing a lot of, you got to get blood, you got to do all this wild shit. And even then, I was like, man, that sounds kind of fucked up. Like, dude lost a testicle. Dude almost died. Like, yeah, maybe getting blood and doing all this stuff could be considered bending the rules or cheating, but how can you hold that against a guy that's damn near dead type thing? So when it came out that, oh, wait a second, and do you guys even remember why it came out that he was doping? It was Floyd Landis.
Yeah, Floyd
Landis all of a sudden wins a couple stages, and then I think maybe wins the overall jacket at the Tour de France. Finally came up, and then gets popped for doping. And then that dirty bastard, Lance Armstrong did it. So they've tested him for years, never caught him. I don't think they ever caught him. I don't think his blood work ever came back positive. He just had to admit it. So you're dealing with a sport that they absolutely knew. Every soul that was in, every participant in the sport was doping, was cheating. And did you watch the documentary?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I'm about 45 minutes in, so I'm just now at the part where he figures out he got cancer. So we've already figured out that one French team won every single race for like a 2-season span because of EPO. And
it was like Dr. Ferrari,
and Ferrari's making Ferraris and stuff. Anyways, it's not cheating if legitimately every single person in the sport is doing it. It is a level playing field. Now, some sports I don't agree with that. I'm another guy. I don't give a shit how many roids Bonds and Sosa were taking. That was the funnest summer of baseball I ever watched in my entire life.
Yes,
and we're gonna get one of those coming up, but. Like fighting, boxing, MMA, which football's riddled with them, we know that. Any sport where people are having like damage to their brains or their bodies they can't ever recover from, I got a little issue with. People that pop in MMA especially, I'm like, John Jones. You don't hear me loving on John Jones. It's too shifty, too shady.
Yes.
But in cycling, they're riding bicycles. They're riding incredible races and distances on these bikes. I don't give a shit if they got HGH injected to both legs and cars on each side and they're just going 300 miles an hour. I just want to see them blowing up those hills in Italy.
Dude, I'm
sorry, in France.
The documentary has helped a little bit because it showed me that everybody was cheating. It can't take away the heartbreak that I had for years just thinking that Lance was just this guy.
The god. He was the god.
The documentary, I feel like he's kind of arrogant about the cheating now, which just kind of makes me more mad.
That is a little weird because he denied it. Like, he got asked, like, he did like a 2020 or something. And he was like, no, I haven't done it. Well, then Landis keeps going and going and going. And he's like, oh, shit. And it may have been on Joe Rogan a couple years ago when he finally was like, because Rogan had him on and he just was like talking to him about it. And I think at first he was kind of shifty about it, but then he was just like, what the hell, I'll just let it all out. But I could see where you guys are a little bit niffed at him, but
yeah.
I mean, I knew from that teacher telling me, because he told me, he was like, look, it's known on the circuits that like people are, doing stuff forever and ever and ever. He's like, it's just part of it.
Well, they were talking about like amphetamines and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Imagine doing some coke and riding 80 miles an hour down a mountain.
Well, that's what
What's more dangerous, EPO or that?
I think the red blood cells would be all right. But no, dude, there's a part of this where they get to it, and it's kind of comical because like these people know that they're just like a different breed whenever they're on this stuff, and it kind of makes it kind of shifty that like the people like. Only the people that were with this Ferrari guy were the people that were just absolutely dominating. So does it make me think that everybody was doing it? No. I feel like there was like the select few that were way up at the top that were training with this guy that had the money and the resources to do so. I feel like those were the people that were doing the doping. The rest of the people just... just kind of out in the woods there. So those are the people that I feel bad for. The people that, instead of being multimillionaires, guys who were making, like Lance said, $24,000 a year just to be a cyclist all the time. That's what it kind of makes me mad about it still. But it does make more sense that everybody's doing it. It's funny, though, because these people realize how big of an advantage it is. They're talking to that Dr. Ferrari who's like leading them through all these drills and stuff. And one of the people that was in on this ordeal, they were telling a story about one of the training sessions they had. They were like, hey, I saw that so-and-so's doing this. And he goes, we don't need to do it. We have the red blood cells. And basically just told him right there, it doesn't matter what we do in training. We're going to win because we have the red blood cells.
We're going to give you the extra juice.
And then Lance said, and then it went from the EPO to just full blood transfusions.
Yeah. That was what...
How did they get that?
Yeah, they're paying some doctor, like team doctor or something.
I mean, dude, imagine that kind of... How shady that had to have been.
I cannot.
because where are they getting the blood?
Yeah, I mean they're lucky they didn't have AIDS there's think if you go donate blood or something, all the questions they ask you, like, have you worn a condom? How many partners have you had? Like, I stopped giving blood 20 years ago. They know I got the clap.
Just throw his out when he leaves. He had long hair and he had a smell to it.
No, in the parts I watched so far, there was a clear line. He said the first time he quote unquote did a performance enhancer was when he was 21. So he turned pro when he was like 15, I guess, for triathlons. But then his first season of cycling, but he said before then they were doing like injections of like they were doing stuff that at the time probably wasn't written in the rules, but I bet you now, like MMA, you can't test for over a certain amount of caffeine. If you test over a certain caffeine in your body, you get flagged. So there was a level of like, hey, we're already performance enhancing, and then I think that one French team, now like you said, not everybody did it. There's still fillers in the pack. There's dudes that got last that I'm sure didn't do it. But he was still kind of a freak of nature athlete, an endurance guy. And then it just seemed like when that one team and Ferrari just dusted everybody for a year, guys like Armstrong and the dudes are like, no, we are the best in the world. It was just like a no-brainer. It wasn't even a choice, it didn't sound like.
No. There is a little bit of sympathy for him just because, everybody does it. He did have bad circumstances, but he was doping before that.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like he was just trying to make up for lost time. Like, he was cheating before that and even admits it, and he's kind of arrogant about it. I'll be interested to see what happens in these next 2 hours of the documentary. But as a documentary, I thought it was good.
Did you watch it? Because you get talking about it, so it's not really intriguing, so... I'm gonna watch it now.
No, he openly says. They said, those like where it kind of gets weird in an interview, and they just like ask the follow-up question, and they're just like, "When was the first time you took a PED?" And he just like opens up and talks all about it. He talks it's almost arrogant how much he talks about it.
He's definitely even more so than Jordan. I think like when Jordan was starting out, Jordan's older, and he's probably got like more rounded life experience because Armstrong, I didn't like, basically from the time he was like 14, he was like a pro triathlete. So like he was a kid, went straight to a pro athlete, living by himself in Italy on a lake so it's like he just never grew up, you know. The one thing, have you guys seen the documentary Icarus?
Yeah.
About the Russian doping.
Yeah.
So it's the documentary guys started out basically to kind of like disprove that performance. He wanted to know if the performance he was a pro cycler, like he did this like series of races or whatever, and like did his times and blah blah blah. Well, that was just regular him training. Well, then he was going to dope for a certain amount of time. And then,
what an experiment to run on yourself.
It's a great documentary. It turns into something far further reaching than you could ever imagine, into the Russian doping scandal, and that basically comes from he contacts his doctor over in Russia to help him like with his doping schedule. So he was like a semi-pro athlete, so he got tested or whatever. So anyways, he did that. He like placed this certain time, and the next year he was gonna do this doping cycle that this super Russian doctor gave him.
So it went from him just being like doing an experiment to like, all right, yeah, I'm actually good at it now.
Well, that was his experience. He actually did worse. He same like regimen, trying to do better. He actually placed much worse than what he did the year before. Not only placed, but I think his times were down. But then the documentary veers off into like. That's how like that documentary actually is how the Russians. You remember the Russian 20? Well, I guess it'd be 2018.
Where they were kicked. Yeah,
they were kicked out. It was basically from this documentary, and the doctor he ended up contacting was actually the doctor doping the entire Russian like government's team. So cool documentary. But when I watch that documentary and then I watch this, don't ever forget how hard even Floyd Landis's bitch ass. Those dudes worked hard. They worked hard. They just made a choice. They made a choice of, hey, I can work hard and finish 598th place, or I can work hard and take this and get first place.
You know who Floyd Landis reminds me of?
Who?
He is who's the goofy swimmer? Not Michael Phelps, but the guy who
Ryan Lochte.
Ryan Lochte. He is
very great comparison, actually.
Floyd Landis is the Ryan Lochte to Lance Armstrong's Michael Phelps.
Yeah. Very good. Gets beat up down in Brazil for causing a ruckus, and then he comes up with some bullshit story. And
tries to just throw everybody under the bus.
It's like, what is such a weird thing, athletes, right?
Yes.
Such a weird thing that those really, really good athletes are almost never likable people. Almost never.
Yeah. No, that's actually very true. Except Aaron Rodgers, his family loves him.
I got family that don't like me, so I don't. Anytime I see someone, they're like, Aaron Rodgers' family pleads with them. I'm like, hold on, they may be a bunch of assholes for all I know. Like, I don't know.
That's true. All right, so Mr. Shackelford, you wanted to talk about the match yesterday. It was Tiger Woods and Peyton Manning versus Tom Brady and Phil Mickelson. What did you see in the match? Did you think it was a television event worth watching?
It was fun. I only watched about 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Me and the old Cappy's Corner host were messaging back and forth. He told me he was taking Tiger all day, and I said, hell no, Tom Brady, Mickelson. I don't even know who won. Who ended up winning?
Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. Or Peyton Manning and Tiger Woods.
Oh, so, okay.
Wouldn't that be something? Tom Brady and Peyton Manning beat
Mickelson and Tiger. It was pretty fun to watch, dude. Tom Brady, he hit a shot. I was laughing at it. He was like using a chipper, like a wedge or something. He clubbed it, and he took about 15 pounds of dirt with him and grass. The fucking thing, I don't know how long it was. It made it in the hole. It like did a turn, a spin back, and everybody's like, "Oh my god!" I'm sitting there watching, like, he's handsome. He's a handsome devil. He's the greatest quarterback of all time, and he can golf. Is there anything that man can't do?
No.
Is there anything he can't do?
I don't know. I'll get back.
No.
I'll get back to you.
He's even kept a model wife for longer years than you could ever keep.
Yeah.
No, that's very true.
Only in Northeast America.
Yeah. No,
It was fun. It was fun. Like they had Barkley chatting him up. Even on that shot,
I was thrown off by that. Whenever they're like, "Oh, Charles Barkley was there," I'm like, "What?"
he was like talking to him through their headphones. It was cool. It was cool to see. I haven't seen Tiger like play in years, so just seeing him shoot, and he was. I'll tell you why they won is because Tiger was murdering it.
Yeah, they said the Tiger was just unreal.
I think at one point when I was watching, Peyton said he had only won, or no. I think Brady was like, I've only won like one hole, but I guess I didn't exactly understand how they were doing it, but it was like they both drive, dude. Poor Peyton lined up and drove one time. That sumbitch. They showed it, and of course they showed the little lines of like where they go, and they showed it, and it looked like it was going straight, and then it started winging, and then they showed the course where the carts were, and they had a lady sitting in a car and another guy in a car, like it was an aerial view, and they're like, we think it went back, and it was like woods. It was like Happy Gilmore in the woods, and they showed that girl, and she just like. I had this. Nobody can see me. I just made this face.
Yeah,
she had this big old cheesy grin, like, "Oh my god, I can't believe he just missed it that bad." So, it was a great watch of like the hilarity of seeing these two who are dressed like pros, and like Peyton and him are looking all serious when they're hitting it. But then you see the real dudes, like, and you're like, okay, there's like
never
levels.
been a more relatable moment.
Yeah, exactly.
To seeing those professional.
The only thing more relatable than that
is
is watching Charles Barkley, the 2-minute clips of him cussing and whacking the ball 32 times.
No, he's absolutely. He can't talk. I feel like he can't talk trash about anybody in the golf game.
No.
I actually saw a lot of people like not liking it. I didn't watch it.
I don't even like golf that much, and I had fun watching.
Exactly, that was the thing, and they raised like $24 million for charity.
Yeah,
so
it's like to live strong, man. What are you bitching about? I don't know.
Well, Peyton, I don't think he was using EPO, but
he's just on TB12, baby.
Yeah, TB12.
I had to explain to I said I was watching with my dad and sister, and my sister's like, "Man, he looks really young. How old is he?" I said, "It's that TB12. Look up that diet." So we were
no
talking about this. Oh, dude, that diet, I'd be dead in a day.
Yeah, it'd kill me.
I'd be dead in an absolute day.
Yeah, you'd have to get Alex Guerrero. You have to get the full package there. All right, so one of the headlines that I wanted to bring to the attention, I feel like I wouldn't do it justice unless I pull up the full quote here. So, of course, the one magazine that he would go out and have this interview with, Reggie Bush. Who would you think? One magazine.
GQ.
Mr. Shackford?
What was the question?
Magazine. What magazine do you think that this interview was with for Reggie Bush? This is not hard. Probably your favorite magazine from the time you were 8.
Playboy.
Yes, sir. So, he has an interview with Playboy. Comes out and basically says that guidance is the only thing the athletes need coming into college. Talking how he missed the boat on this, being able to get paid. I'm just summarizing here, and then he says that this is something that has never been experienced before, and it's going to destroy some people if their foundation is not in the right place. Talking about the athletes there, and basically says that athletes shouldn't get paid. Kind of hilarious, though. Reggie Bush is the only athlete that I know of, at least, that has had a Heisman taken away from him from improper benefits.
But he's the only one.
I believe he is the only one. That's the only time that they didn't give out a Heisman, a trophy, I think, technically.
Never played a single down in college football, actually.
Never played a single down in college football. Just wiped him away from all the record books, even though all he did was just get some money.
Any film tells you number 5 is not really there.
No. I don't understand how you can be the guy who got paid in college football and then just in 15 years completely reverse on the take and say that it was absolutely bad.
He is the one guy, right? Like, basically since that point, it hasn't been another, like...
He is the guy.
Reggie Bush, like...
No.
Above the sport guy you paid.
No, I mean, Todd Gurley got paid to sign some jerseys, and that was... Johnny Manziel got paid for an autograph session, but that was it.
And Philip Fry got a tattoo. But no,
yes.
Reggie Bush, though, like, he was...
He's bigger than college football.
Yeah, he was.
Wasn't he like driving around in Hummers or something? And they're like,
that was one in high school.
Oh, okay.
And East Akron. So Another story.
No, but Reggie Bush, whenever he said that he got on the plane and came to UCL or USC for the first time, Snoop Dogg picked him up in a limousine.
Yeah, so this is like saying, Lance Armstrong is like saying that people shouldn't dope because they keep account harder.
Or this is very similar to. I just had it in my head. It was a good one.
Maybe Reggie's heart's in the right place.
Pete Rose. Pete Rose saying gambling's absolutely terrible for the sport of baseball.
Yeah,
that's what I had in my head.
You know, maybe his heart's from the right place. Maybe he's like, you know what? I made this mistake. I can't say legally that I made this mistake, but I made this mistake. Maybe there's more guys out there like me that don't need to get paid.
I just feel like if there's a guy who could grab that spot and be the spokesperson for athletes getting paid in college, Reggie Bush is the guy. And I feel like all he's doing is just letting down the entire college.
Every college player. How many years did USC get?
I think they had like 2 years suspension from bowls.
Yeah.
So
one of those seasons they were very good.
Every coach, every coach that lost his job because of that, every player that lost their scholarship or went to play somewhere else. I mean, that's a life-changing thing for a lot of people. So to them, they're probably pissed off. They're probably imagine being a coach on that team, and I mean, I imagine people got fired because you're not handing out scholarships. Next thing you know, your team sucks ass. You start losing jobs, and it's basically because of one guy.
Yeah.
How do you think those some bitches feel right now?
I think Coach O was in on that mix at one point. Like one of the guys got fired, Coach O stepped in. They ended up hiring Clay Helton over Coach O, even though he was like doing really well there. So there was a guy that got fired. Yes.
Yeah, maybe the Boosie bomb and call like, oh, talk about that call, asshole.
Yeah. Or
I hope one of them comes out. One of them comes out and be like, hey.
I just ruined your life.
No, and you actually said it perfectly. Imagine being one of those athletes that didn't get to go to a bowl game because Reggie Bush came in front of you, or you have to transfer schools.
You never even met Reggie Bush, and you got stuck there. Your parents couldn't afford to send you somewhere else.
Well, if you're sending him to L.A., I don't know if they have a problem. But no, I just feel like, maybe those guys would feel a little bit better about the situation if now, like, Reggie Bush was, like, standing up for the players. And you could realistically, like, hang your hat on the fact that you were a part of getting the student-athletes a little bit of money. Instead, Reggie's changed his whole entire take, and it honestly kind of makes me a little mad about the situation that you would do that whenever you have a perfect opportunity to be the guy who ruined it for a lot of other people.
He's such a weird character. I mean, in college, it was like him running past 2-year-olds. And then he gets to the pros and he has, again, I'm a casual NFL guy, but from a casual guy, he had a couple productive seasons and they just fell off the map. And the only thing you hear about him is the St. Louis Rams got to pay him $1 gajillion because they blew out his fucking ACL with their shitty stadium.
Yes.
Which is basically why they left St. Louis, because their stadium.
They should have saw the writing on the wall.
Such a weird guy to come out of the woodwork and be like, oh no way should they get paid.
No, I thought if there was one guy that I think it would be weird to come out with this stance, it is absolutely Reggie Bush. No doubt about it.
This goes up there. They're just insane. He threw a pig to play in the NFL.
Yeah, well, that was just funny though.
Yeah, it could be true though.
Have you seen the movie Basketball?
I think it's true. Huh?
You guys seen the movie Basketball?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Well, that part he was like, "Do you think Shaq made all that money in Orlando?" I think is how it goes. And he goes, "No, dummy, he made it all in college." Like that's the Reggie Bush. That's the Reggie Bush.
No, that's absolutely the truth. So, last little bit of football here until we get on the real man sport of fighting. Late and see, Dak Prescott. $45 million a year? I think the last contract that I saw was they offered 5 years for $175 million. Mm-hmm. Dak turned that down. So, do they pay him $45 million a year?
I don't think they're going to.
You can't.
I really think Jerry Jones, I think Jerry Jones had to turn on listening years for once. I heard everybody say how he holds all the coding situation and how Dak is a very solid quarterback, but he also had elite line play and elite run game.
Oh, the best offensive line.
Yeah, great pass catches the entire career. And Andy Dalton, if he had that, he'd be good at TD backup right now. I think he's doing that. And I don't think you're going to pay Dak Prescott.
No.
I think he'll let him hold out. I think he'll let him walk away from him too.
No, I absolutely agree with that. I think the CD Lamb draft pick was more than just, hey, we're going to have this toy for Dak Prescott right away. I think it's more of, hey, if we have 3 star-level wide receivers and Michael Gallup, Amari Cooper, and CD Lamb, it doesn't matter who we put back there. It can be Andy Dalton for for whatever's sake. Because really, both those guys are kind of similar in where they'll stuff a bunch of stats, but they're not the guy that's going to drive down the field, 80 yards in crunch time and win you a football game. The only time I remember Dak Prescott piecing apart a defense to win a game was Week 17 against the Giants last season when it didn't really matter, and plus it was against the Giants. I don't understand how he could go out and think that he's just going to get more money than Patrick Mahomes just because he's like the most recent guy to get paid. If they can get him back for 35, less than 35, I would do it. I don't think Dak's going to take a team-friendly deal at this point. I think he's more upset with the Cowboys. I absolutely write out the franchise tag until maybe he does it, especially with everything that's going on with the pandemic. Everybody's talking about how the salary cap could drop if the season takes any kind of hit whatsoever. So I think this is just a bad spot for both parties at this point.
Yeah, we talked about NFL contracts. I think it was either last spring or the winter about how we think of the bubble. Everybody's getting paid a huge dollar. Frank Clark got paid a money still Mahomes doing still too. It's like eventually there's not going to be enough money to go around.
Exactly.
And I think Dak Prescott being the good but not elite level quarterback, when he get paid, I think this is going to make that bubble happen. And J.J. Jones, you pull J.J. Jones, and you know what? This is what you will. You don't want it, don't take it, but this is the market now.
Do you think any team will pay him $45 million a year?
No, I wouldn't pay him $35 million a year because, like I said, he's not an elite level talented quarterback, but his demeanor on the field and in winning time, at that time he can't make those plays. That's worth $35 million. So he's in that really good spot now of the tape just is not there, but at the same time, when the tape needs to be there, it's there.
No, I do agree with that. I just don't see how you pay any quarterback in the NFL $45 million. I don't even know how you would pay Patrick Mahomes $45 million and be able to suit up the rest of the roster.
So the Cowboys, the Cincinnati Tyler Smith, they did pay Zeke and Cooper. Can they even pay him that much?
I have no idea. I don't. Jerry can do some weird stuff. I'm sure they could get it done. Otherwise, he wouldn't be asking for it. But I feel like there's almost no way. Plus, they just got a bunch of money that opened up from Travis Frederick's retiring.
That's right.
So I think that once Travis Frederick retired, I think the asking price actually went up, which is kind of bizarre to do. You're just like, instead of just me wanting to get what I want, I'm going to make you give everything you have. And I think that's a really weird thing, especially for your so-called franchise quarterback there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What do you think ends up happening out of this? Do you think it gets tabled, or do you think he actually gets a contract?
I think he signed a franchise tag. If they have training camp, I think before training camp day one. And then after that, I think a great contract. I don't think he gets signed during the season. I think he signed the franchise tender, and they play it out. And then next off season, he has to do the same thing. They don't actually let him walk.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be a bidding war for Dak Prescott at the end of it because I don't see him moving an inch on this.
One time, Jerry Jones said to invite and stay on money for the Super Bowl. Well, Jerry, if you win on this season, you might be buying that check.
No. Jerry Jones is never going to win another Super Bowl. If it wasn't for the 7 draft picks, man. 7 draft picks. Herschel Walker.
Jimmy Johnson.
All right, so Mr. Shackelford, did you see Mike Tyson?
Yeah, he looks good.
He looks good. He's making a comeback.
He's not making a comeback.
That's what I hear.
No chance.
You don't think he can make a comeback?
No. He is past that time in his life. If you listen to any of his podcasts or you listen to any of the stuff,
he has said that he feels like the same guy, which scares me.
He has said multitudes of times that he is not that same guy, and that's why he quit. Was that he was an animal then, and he's not anymore, and he doesn't even want to be that guy. I think the dude's just getting in shape. I think
I
he's
hope
just
that's the
getting in
case
shape.
because I don't want to see him become the animal again. And a lot of people,
No, you don't want. He's this kind, sweet, gentle. You know,
he owns a pot farm bed and breakfast.
Yes, he's real big into his podcast. It's called like Hot Boxing with Mike Tyson. He owns a weed company. He has
KO Kush.
He has what is it called?
KO Kush.
I've heard it's pretty insane from like when you listen to the guys that are on his show. He's in one of the funniest cartoons. He came up with one of the funniest cartoons you could ever watch. It's called like Mike Tyson's Mystery. Mike Tyson Mysteries or something. I can't remember off the top of my head.
It's like Scooby Doo, but he's Scooby Doo.
Basically, yeah, it is basically. It's hilarious. I just think he's getting in shape, and he likes fights, so he's going to fights, and like you see him all these clips trying to show these fighters a few things, and you show him hitting mitts. I think he was a dude that got a little chubby, and he just wanted to get a workout in. I think Bare Knuckle FC said they're offering him like $20 million to
What?
fight. You know, now he's never fought Bare Knuckle.
Okay,
Why?
he's going to come back.
I don't think he will.
$20 million.
I don't think he will.
It's the ESPN saying, hey, Mike, you got to do the 30 plan, but right now, and he's not that great. Next 3 years, you're going to do some shit, man.
Yeah.
Maybe come back, don't come back, just do something.
Just Brett Farvis.
Yeah.
It's very similar to the Nick Blue documentary. Have you guys ever seen that one?
No, I haven't.
Called
But
Love Ricky Love. It's
I've seen it. It's kind of sad, actually.
It's kind of sad, but I think we call it what Ricky doing. But Ricky just like he's happy, you know. He just getting high in that small house with his wife, just hanging out, being good. Seems like Tyson. So like Tyson's other side, like, hey, I'm not crazy. I'm just, like Tyson, just doing what I want to do.
yeah, no, I honestly think that there are actually people that like followed very similar paths where it's like, all they wanted to do, like Ricky Williams just wanted to win a Heisman, Mike Tyson just wanted to win a championship, and then like once that dream's fulfilled, like what else do you really have?
He had a lot of like his trainer Customato, like he was like the first male figure in his life that ever took him in, and we're talking at like 13, 14 years old. There's talk of like he kind of hypnotized him, like he would do these like I think now they would call it more like performance therapy or something. I forget the exact.
I thought you were going to say performance enhancing drugs, and I said, don't ruin Mike Tyson for me too.
No. Of all the sports, boxing is one of the very few that anybody ever pops for. It's just not. I just don't think that there's really any one performance answer out there that can help that spectrum of endurance and power that you have to
I'm
have.
sure EPO would help.
I'm sure it helps. Hell, maybe they ain't even testing for it. I don't know.
Yeah, I did not know about 13-year-old poetry thing. This is way more than full out. I mean, Lance Armstrong is.
Yeah, no,
And it would be a good. I still think that the rape allegations are something that turns a lot of people off.
yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff out there. That dude like had him hypnotized that he was like this animal, and just you had one mission: destroy that person in front of you. And that's really when he started to fall off. Is when Customato passed away. When he passed away, he was on his own, and people like dying. He's really the ultimate tale of I can't string the sun got me the last 2 days.
He's empty, dude.
Cautionary tale. He is the ultimate cautionary tale of a guy that came from absolutely nothing, met an older figure that just really helped him through life, gave him something to be passionate about. He pulls his way out of there, makes all the money you could ever imagine, and within a couple of years, when that guy passed, it wasn't until Cuss passed away that he fell apart. They could make a 10-part documentary on Tyson. Even the rape allegations, I'll be honest with you, I usually stay away from that stuff. When you hear Tyson talk about it, it doesn't sound believable. Like, I remember when he first was like this real woo-saw guy, he was talking about it, and he did an interview, and he was like, look, I did not rape her. He's like, I did not rape her. He's like, but I deserved to go to jail. He's like, I was a piece of shit. I deserved worse than AIDS. He's like, but I didn't do that. And I'm sitting there listening to him, I'm like, he's already done his jail time. Like, he's lost all his money. He's, fought, disgraced, whatever. There's no reason for him to lie about it anymore. So I tend to believe him. He was in a bunch of terribly weird, bad relationships with the girls and media at the time. So, I don't want to see him back. I don't want it to be true. I don't think it's true.
No.
I think Layton's right. If that's not a 30 for 30 Mike Tyson, I don't know what the hell is. I
absolutely
he looks
agree.
phenomenal. Have you seen him hit mitts?
Oh, dude, he's beautiful.
It's
beautiful.
You still wouldn't want to. If you're in the store and there was like 100 people there and you're like, I'll pay you $10 million to take a punch from one guy in this audience of 100, and Mike strolls forward, you'd be like, no, not today. Like, the 100 million's gone.
No, dude, him hitting mitts is beautiful to watch. Which, like, even like the chubby Mike Tyson, like, he would still hit mitts a little bit.
Those fast twitch muscle fibers never go away. Just that peekaboo bob and weave style is the most. It's so beautiful, man.
Yeah, and I hear people like, oh yeah, it'd be great, and like Holyfield has been like training and stuff.
Well, Evander's broke as a motherfucking joke. That's why he wants him to come out.
I'm praying that this is not a thing.
Evander's the type of guy that's got he's like kryptonite to Tyson. He can take the big punch, and he's just got a little more. And he was a lighter guy that came up, so he's got just a touch more endurance, and he's not scared. And that was a big thing with Tyson. There were so many people scared of him. They just got touched one time and they were just done. And then other guys would get touched one time and they were done because they were knocked out. But Evander, Lennox Lewis, those guys were like kryptonite to him.
He came walking back Lennox Lewis whenever that last fight. I've been watching it.
Yeah, he caught Lennox later in Tyson's career, and Lewis was just like hitting his stride. I mean, Lennox Lewis, there's not much talk about him because he was British and he was boring, but man, that dude's jab, the dude could jab you from across the. I mean, he won so many, and really until we get Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, now the heavyweight boxing division just went to sleep for like a decade, because you had the Alis, the Frazier's, the Foremans, and then you take a little time, you got like Spinks, and there was a couple other guys, and then you got Tyson just demolishes everybody. I'm trying to think of the guy that beat, he beat the brakes off Muhammad Ali, and everybody hated him for it. Well, then Tyson beat the shit out of him later in his life, and everybody's like, well, that's kind of what you get for beating up Ali type thing.
Right.
But then after Tyson, you get Lennox Lewis comes in there, and you had some guys. You had David Tua.
I knew. If you didn't say it, I was going to say David Tua was my favorite boxer.
Dude, I remember going and seeing that fight live, and I was sure David Tua was good. And I was like, he can't be hurt. He's a Samoan, Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, something. He can't be hurt. And then Lennox Lewis just boxed his ears off.
I would always pick him in like those fight night video games. Shell up, walk towards him, and then throw a big old overhand, and it worked every time.
He was a fun dude. But then after you had the Lennox Lewis years, you had the Klitschko brothers, and those dudes were much like Lewis. They were taller than everybody. They just jabbed the shit out, and they just put the division. I mean, great fighters, but I don't know if people will be talking about them as the greatest fighters in history years from now, just because they were so like boring. And they didn't have a lot of, at least Lennox Lewis had Tyson, and he had Evander, and he had these guys. The Klitschko brothers really didn't have that. So until Fury and what's the other ones that's also a champion now that I can't think. He just beat Anthony Ruiz. Until Joshua and Fury come back into the mix, there's no life in that division. So
no.
I know I got off on a tangent a little bit there. No, I don't want Tyson back. No, I don't think he's coming back.
I don't either.
I want him to grow the best weed money can buy and have a bed and breakfast.
I absolutely agree. The man is at peace. Let him stay there.
Exactly. That's like pulling Gandhi. It's like, we'll say Gandhi was in the war or something when he was a young man. He gets out and then he becomes this Buddhist whatever master Gandhi was. And then they're like, hey, Gandhi, for $10 million, let's go whoop this dude's ass. And he's like, yeah, I'll go take that. Like, you don't want that shit.
No, you absolutely don't want it. $20 million, though, that does speak volumes.
I'll fight anybody for $20 million.
I probably would, too. So
I'll go into it. No, I'm getting an ass kicking.
would you fight 53-year-old Mike Tyson for...
fuck yeah.
Okay.
Fuck yes. I would go down. He wouldn't even hit me. It'd be a ghost punch. I'd go down and be like, oh, he killed me.
You have to give it a valiant effort.
I got long hair, man. I could just whoosh, whoosh, like Mankind used to do in the WWE. You guys wouldn't even know.
I would know. All right, so UFC Fight Night this weekend. I'm pumped about it. It's this Saturday. Obviously, they had to take a little bit of a hiatus here just because they had so many fights in so many days. But it seems like we're going to get back to the whole every Sunday there's a Rumble. Just for the COVID update with this, they said that they are now going to be testing the fighters twice while they're there. First when they check in, and then after the weigh-in, just to make sure that everything's good there. So they are taking more precautions. And you look at this card, headlined by Tyrone Woodley and Gilbert Burns. A lot of really good fighters on here. Fun fights, even. You have Kevin Holland, who's fighting. This will be a second fight in 10 days or 14 days.
Yeah.
Either way, in the last 2 weeks, this will be his second fight. You have Mackenzie Dern, Bagoy Ivanov, Roosevelt Roberts, the craziest looking guy that I've never heard of, and Brock Weaver, Valentina Shevchenko's sisters fighting on this card, Tim Elliott. Honestly, a lot of good names here. And Mr. Shackelford, you think you can break down the top 5 fights?
I will. Listen, there's going to be an asterisk on this one. I don't know if I should make these bet. I don't know if I'm going to call these
6-0 night.
I don't know if I'm going to give you betting picks, but I'll break them down a little bit. I'll give you who my favorite is. The rest is up to you.
You have to be able to at least break down the Tyrone Woodley, Gilbert Burns.
Yeah. We got. I could break down those top 5, no problem. Even all the way down to Antonia Shevchenko versus Caitlin Chuyin. I know all those guys.
Yeah. So try to give us a 6-0 night this week. So get us back to 500.
I need it. Jesus.
Yes. Water finds its level. I honestly think this is time. So we'll start off with the headliner. We have Tyrone Woodley taking on Gilbert Burns. Tyrone Woodley is a -190 favorite to Gilbert Burns, who is a +155 dog. Mr. Shackelford shaking his head in agreement, like he sounds like these odds are pretty fair.
I would say that they are fair because Woodley's the former champ. He lost one fight. However, when's the last time we saw Woodley? Let's look.
It's been a long time.
He had one, and if you remember, that loss was Usman pitched a shutout.
300 landed strikes in that fight by Kamaru Usman.
His last fight was March 2nd,
and he only had 2 takedowns.
2019, over a year ago.
Prior to that, it was
September 8th, 2018. So, I mean, he only fights. And so he fought. Okay, let's see. Once in 2015, twice in 16, twice in 17, once in 18, once in 19. Father Time catches up with everyone.
I agree.
I like Gilbert Burns in this one.
I do too.
I think Gilbert Burns will not have a problem being taken down. A, his takedown defense is very good. B, he ain't going to get tapped out by Woodley. I'll tell you that. You remember who took him down last fight? Damian Maia.
Damian Maia,
You think Damian Maia can get him down and he can get out from that? But Woodley's going to choke him out? Not a chance.
No.
Look at Gilbert Burns' last fights. Damian Maia, TKO. Gunnar Nelson, decision. Alexei Kunchenko, who was like 27-0 at the time, beat him. Subbed Mike Davis. Beat OAM. His last loss was at 155 in 2018, actually against Dan Hooker in round 1. That's why he doesn't fight at 55 anymore. He fights... He moved up to 70. But he has had, since 18, he has had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fights since the last time we basically saw Woodley.
Yeah.
Woodley's had 1 fight in the time he's had 5. Gilbert Burns has very good striking. He's got Henry Hooft in his corner. He's got one of the best jiu-jitsu grappling coaches of all time and one of my favorite guys to watch named Wagner Roca. I'm going to go Gilbert Burns by decision.
I think Gilbert Burns does win this fight, too. The only thing that scares me is the whole 5-round fight thing. That always has to scare you a little bit whenever you haven't seen it. But I really think Gilbert Burns is going to win this fight. For one, he's in Tyron Woodley's head. Tyron Woodley has him blocked on Twitter.
Does he?
Yes. So
he's such a weird character. We've talked about this
guy.
for years. He continues this unlikable personality.
But I don't think it's a facade. I think that's just him.
It may just be him.
Yeah, I think it is.
May just be him.
Colby Covington, I buy it. He's just, this is a sell job. Triple C, Henry Cejudo, sell job. I just think that Tyron Woodley's just not a guy that really cares if people like him or not. And I don't think he's a bad guy. I just think he just doesn't care what people do or think, and he just kind of moves on with it.
Yeah, I think he's in this weird place of he's a guy that grew up in humble beginnings in Ferguson, Missouri, which is, kind of ghetto area, like really I don't want to say poor. Poor is not the word, but it is the right word. I'm just trying to doll it up. He grew up in that. He's a kid that used his athleticism to go to college, so he's a university graduate. He's a professional athlete, and to me, seems like a guy that's trying to dip his toes in both of those. Like, he wants to be a rapper, but at the same time, he's on TMZ, like doing a personality gig. Like, if you're gonna be a rapper, you got to be a rapper. You can't have a goofy personality on TMZ and then be this college graduate and then be this professional athlete. I feel like he's like a jack of all trades personality wise, when really he just needs to be whatever he actually is, and a badass athlete.
Yes.
It's just a weird place he's in. He's also, don't forget, he was training for a 5-round fight against the British dude whose name's escaping me just a month ago. So this will be like his second camp. Like, he just stayed in camp, he said. So what just happened to Tony Ferguson? His got pushed back 2 weeks.
His got pushed back, and he did not look at the same.
We know
you can't stay that plateau for that long.
You cannot peak.
Exactly.
Whereas Gilbert Burns is taking these fights and taking these fights and taking these fights. Maybe he's not at his peak, but I bet his peak right now is better than Tyron Woodley's.
Yes, I do agree. I think Gilbert Burns is going to win this fight. The only thing that makes me nervous about this is the whole get off the tracks when the train's coming through, when Tyron Woodley basically just punishes you.
If you think a ways to win, do you think he can take Gilbert Burns down and sub him?
No.
Do you think he can take him down and pound him out without Burns being able to get up?
I think that if he does go that route, I see it being, if Gilbert Burns survives that round, he's going to win the fight because Tyron Woodley's going to be exhausted.
Do you, as far as just straight standing in the middle striking, who do you think's got the better striking?
Gilbert Burns does, but if there's a guy who can
we've got to narrow down to one
way.
He's got one route to victory. And that's where he backs up to the fence. The guy stands in one spot and he runs
you over.
Now, he's caught us before on this, but I really think Burns is going to get him.
Yes,
I tell you guys all the time, no matter what your gut tells you, the guy with more ways to win almost always wins.
Yes, I absolutely agree 100% there. That's why I do like Gilbert Burns there. Tyron Woodley scares me ever since the Darren Till fight, basically.
That was, but
one way to win.
One way to win, and he did it.
So next up, we have Blagoy Ivanov. He has even odds, minus 155, with Augusta Sakai. Did I get that name right? Minus 155, or 115 odds, even odds, both guys. Who do you think's going to win this fight and why?
This one's really tough. Blagoy, we've loved him since he came in. He's got that wild story. But he's basically, think of that last fight he had with Derek Lewis, how wild that one was. He's basically came in, he's had 5 fights. I think he's won 3 of them. They've gone to decision every time. He's like 5'10", like 260 or something. He's got a big right hand. He can take a beating. This Augusto Sakai dude's 14-1-1. He just knocked out Marcin Tybura. He's got a decision win over Andre Arlovsky. He's got a TKO over Chase Sherman. His last loss was actually in 17 against Chet Kondigo, which would have came in a different promotion. I like Blagoy a lot. He's one of the funnest dudes.
I love
to watch.
Blagoy. I hate picking against him.
I'm gonna go with Sakai on this one. I think he's 6'4". He's quite a bit taller. He's got a more well-rounded striking game.
Not just put your head down, take a punch to the forehead, and fire off.
But if I'm going to root for anybody, that's what they do. It's going to be Blagoy.
Oh yeah.
But in this instance, I like Sakai.
Yeah. I don't know much about this Sakai guy, but just going off the record, better fights. With Blagoy, how many fights has he had? Do you have it on there?
Yeah, let me check. I think he's like 18-3.
Oh, I thought Blagoy had more fights than that.
Nah, he's 18-3. Actually, his only loss. Listen to this loss list. His only losses: Derek Lewis, Junior Dos Santos, and Alexander Volkov.
That's pretty good.
He's fought the best of the best.
Oh, yes.
I mean, if you were going to line him up person to person, he's probably got the better, wins list. He's beat Tai Tuivasa, he beat Ben Rothwell, had a really close fight with Derek Lewis. Really, JDS is the only guy that really, outclassed him type thing. But, I mean, he was right in that fight the whole time. So, the dude's fun as hell. I am going to go Sakai, though.
Okay, next up, fighting for his second time in 2 weeks. It might be 10 days. I'm almost positive it's 10 days.
I
thought it was a Wednesday fight.
Yeah, it might have been the Wednesday. Or maybe been the Saturday.
Or is it? It might have been.
Let me check.
Either way, the guy's fighting.
He got a quick knockout.
Yes, it is Kevin Holland, minus 230 favorite against Daniel Rodriguez, who is a plus 180 underdog here.
May 16th, so 9, yeah.
May 16th, wow. Pretty crazy pace by Kevin Holland here, but if you get yourself a first-round knockout, you earn stuff like this. So who do you take in this fight and why?
This is a tough one. I do like Kevin Holland. He fought a dude named Fluffy who had came off the Contender Series. He was a dude that Dana White didn't like at first. He was calling him Big Mouth, and you remember, I think he fought on the Contender Series, won his fight, but they didn't pick him up. But they called him to fight none other than Thiago Santos on a week's notice.
That sounds fair.
Dana said nobody would take the fight, and he was like, go ahead. And he kept calling him Big Mouth. He's like, go ahead and...
That's who you line up to fight, Thiago Santos, the guy that you don't like.
Well, no, that's what Dana said. He said, I didn't like the guy. He said, you know what, call it Big Mouth. See if he's really as tough as he thinks he is. Some bitch took the fight and went to a decision. He lost a unanimous decision, but he went to a decision with a former 205-pound title holder and a 185-pound monster. I like Kevin Holland here. I think he is going to get the win. He seemed to have matured quite a bit. This Daniel Rodriguez, though, might be a guy to watch. He looks like he's 45-year-old crackhead from your hometown. He's 33. Damn, he's younger than me. Now I feel old. He's got an old look to him, okay? He actually just knocked out my boy Dirty Bird, Tim Means.
If
you remember that fight, Tim Means was piecing him, and this dude clobbered him. This guy's got really nice boxing. Very fun to watch. I'm sorry I called him an old crackhead because he's 2 years younger than I am. I am going to go Kevin Holland on this one, though.
Okay, I actually have to pull a picture up for myself.
He fights out of Albuquerque.
Jackson Wink?
I think so. There's a couple camps there. Because Tim Means is out of Albuquerque, too. He's from, the NHB gym or something, so.
Okay, probably this fight... this one wins my most visual appealing. Maybe fight of the year.
Brock Weaver's not a handsome man, is he?
Fight of the year? What do you think? For
least handsome men, I'm going to go yes.
All right, so we have Roosevelt Roberts. He is a minus 113. Sorry, he is a minus 315 favorite to Brock Weaver, who is a plus 245 dog. Brock Weaver has some beautiful ponytails, tattoos. This fight's going to be awesome. This fight's just going to be awesome just from what I see walking out of the tunnel. Mr. Shackelford, I know Roosevelt Roberts, very fun guy, in my opinion, to watch fight. I don't know much about Brock Weaver, so you take it away here.
Brock Weaver, he's a Native American. He fights... I forget which Native American nation he fights out of or whatever. But
wait, so he still trains at the...
I'm not sure where he trains, but like when he I think he wears like a headpiece out and stuff like that. Hell, it says he's from Alabama. Look up his Twitter. I have him on Twitter.
That took
I'm
a
gonna
huge
go
turn.
Roosevelt Roberts. Now I feel like we're getting in a weird place. Roosevelt Roberts. End of story.
All right. All right, so it seems like Brock Weaver actually fought Joe Riggs.
Did he? He's got some wins. He beat Charles Bennett. His last fight is.
It was bare knuckle. It was a bare knuckle bout. Yes, he fought bare knuckle against Joe Riggs, lost by a decision in 2018. Oh my goodness! They got this guy to start Fight Island because there was actually a thing called Island Fights, and he apparently dominated that because he won Island Fights 37, Island Fights 34, Island Fights 46. Yeah.
He's had a hell of a Fight Island career. No, he's a tough dude. His last fight was the only fight I've seen live. He got kneed. He got KO'd, kneed. He was a downed opponent, so he got a DQ win there. But I do like Roosevelt Roberts. He had the one loss to Vince Pichel, which he fought very weird in that fight, but he's got the very nasty chokes. His striking's not bad. I feel like he's probably going to tag Weaver up a little bit, and when Weaver goes to shoot, he'll snatch his neck. So.
All right. Actually, I like this Brock Weaver guy.
I'm going to have to look up how many Indian nations are from Bama. I may just be behind in my culture here.
He was 9-7 as an amateur, and he's 15-4 now as a professional.
Damn, he turned that around.
Yeah, talk about turning the corner. It's kind of crazy. He probably just had to quit his part-time job there. All right, next fight, last fight that we're actually going to break down, unless I can maybe get you into the Caitlin Kukajan fight. Mackenzie Dern opens as one of the biggest favorites on the card at -400 against Hannah Cyphers at +300. Mr. Shackelford, what's the pick?
This is a tough fight for Mackenzie Dern. We saw in her last fight, she does not have great striking. She's tough as nails. Amanda Ribas really pieced her up a lot, and she hung in there. No quit in her, but she's got one way to win, man. She's got to get a takedown, and she's going to submit him. Now, she's done that a bunch of times. She's a world champion. She's one of the best ever. It could also be this Amanda Ribas is 9-1, and she just beat Randa Marcos too. It could just be that she was that much better, but I really like Hannah Cyphers. She's a very tough girl.
+300 dog. That's a huge
Dern's
payout.
the dog?
No. Dern's the huge
Cyphers the favorite?
Hannah Cyphers is a tremendous underdog here. +300.
I don't know how she's the dog. The only thing I can think is she got her last fight, Angela Hill took her down and just mashed her. That one scares me. We'll go Dern by submission.
So you think Dern's going to win now? You liked Cyphers. Hey,
I
it's
do
okay.
like Cyphers, but oh man, that one scares me right there.
It's okay to like the underdog.
That's too big of a dog. They got to know something we don't.
Definitely. Okay. All right. So we'll go.
Thomas, we only have betting books. How about that?
Look, Dern's tough as nails. She got hit a lot in her last fight. Maybe I thought Cyphers was a lot better than she was. Because Angela Hill's not a ground fighter, and she took her down, passed her guard, and really, TKO'd her with elbows on the ground, I believe. So if Angela Hill can get her down and do that, Mackenzie Dern can get her down.
Okay. So. All right, that's the first time I've ever actually. That's the first time I've ever had.
I'm too scared.
All right, so to round out the card, you have Tim Elliott, Louis Smolka, Casey Kenny, a lot of actually really good fighters down at the bottom here. I'm going to try to trick you into giving us one more with Antonina
Shevchenko. That's
Valentina's sister.
Yeah.
She's taking on Caitlin Kukajan, who is a plus 120 dog to Shevchenko's minus 115 favorite. I just see the name Shevchenko and see it at that small of a favorite.
I was scared off by the last dog. Not this one. Take Chookian.
You think she wins?
Yes. You remember what happened in her last fight?
I don't.
Valentina murdered her.
Oh, yeah.
So she fought Valentina. Now she's coming to fight the sister. The only problem is Antonia can't wrestle to save her life.
Okay.
So I'm looking for Chookagian to take her down, beat her up for Big Sis whooping her ass.
Yeah, I think this is a total smell
And
blood in the
actually,
water.
I think Valentina is Little Sis, if I'm not mistaken.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I think she's the younger one.
Oh, wow. Talk about your younger sibling never being able to beat you up.
Antonia's 35. She's also the better looking sister.
That's important.
Well, I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. Valentina is... This isn't important, but we got to look it up now.
Yeah, I never knew.
Valentina's 32.
Okay, so she, 3 years younger.
3 years younger.
All right, so anything else that you want to talk about with this card? Or do you feel pretty confident in all these bets? I feel like you feel confident in these.
Yeah, I feel confident in those.
Okay, the only one that you're not so confident in is the minus 400 dog, which we can live with not betting.
Yeah. I mean, there's some tight fights. Burns, Woodley, that's a tight fight. I just think Burns is going to get it done. I'm not saying they're walking the parks. You're just going to watch the fights and be like, oh, God, he murdered him. It's not going to be that way.
No.
But I like the picks.
No, I do too. I think this is going to be a very good card here. So anything else before we wrap this show up? Anybody watch any good television
Hold on.
this
The
week?
biggest news in MMA happened this week.
What was it?
John Jones announced that he was going to sign a contract to fight Francis Ngannou.
I saw that actually on Twitter. John Jones was very upset that the UFC wouldn't be able to match the money that he wanted. I thought it was crazy that John Jones wouldn't take the fight in the first place. John Jones was talking about how he was the GOAT. It was a crazy John Jones Twitter experience. But what's going on?
Well, sometimes on Twitter you say you want to fight someone, and then when the contract comes, they ain't paying you enough money to do so. So that's the end of that. He said, send the contract. They kind of had a little Twitter back and forth, and he's like, oh, you guys think I'm scared? Send the contract. They sent the contract. John Jones put, wow, UFC, I don't want to get into numbers, but they don't want to give me enough money to fight Francis, so I guess Jan's next.
So he's playing this game?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the equivalent of you looking at the bullying class, giving him the finger when the teacher's behind, looking the other way, and that guy's like, I'm going to whoop your ass at lunch. And then you start to head down there, you take a step out of the lunchroom, and next thing you know, you're like, I got to do the erasers, I'll be back. And you just run off.
Gone.
Run off.
This is terrible. For one, I think that the idea of him fighting Francis Ngannou is maybe the worst career decision John Jones could ever make. If you're going to fight at heavyweight, you fight for the title. You don't fight for anything else because the title's going to get you the money and because you have two A sides at this point, and it's going to get you more money. People want to see that. Nobody wants to see you fight the number 3 contender and a guy who's probably going to beat you because you rely on athleticism, on beating everybody, and guess what? This is the one guy in the UFC who's more athletic than John Jones.
And he priced himself out. He said that he was trying to make it seem like the UFC was dicking him. He's like, I forget how he worded it, but he basically said, come on UFC, like they were going to give him, they weren't going to pay him title fight money because it's not a title fight. So they weren't going to pay him title fight money, but they said that they would give him, obviously he would get pay-per-view points. So it was going to be a 5-rounder main event, non-title fight. And he's claiming that the UFC told him they would renegotiate his contract if he went to heavyweight. Of course, the UFC is like mum about that type stuff. But no, he priced himself out. He just said, hey, you know what? I want to fight you. I want to whoop your butt. Next thing you know, nah, that's okay.
Nope,
man.
just going to fight Jan instead.
Yeah, if you want to look up that tweet, you guys can. It was hilarious. So, he's talking about how he's going to whip him. He's not afraid of anyone, and then Yeah, here's one. It says, I've had some time to think about it, and I'm a lot less emotional. Just sad the UFC doesn't see my value against the scariest heavyweight in the world. Jan, I guess you're next. That was on May 22nd.
The scariest heavyweight in the world that doesn't hold the title.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you doing? I don't understand it. Like, what does John Jones want?
Here is the original tweet. Before even discussing numbers, the UFC was unwilling to pay more for the Francis super fight for me to move to heavyweight. Said I could possibly earn more on pay-per-view buys. You want to know why you're not going to earn more? Because it's not a title fight, dummy.
No.
It's just a fight. It's just a fight. So he priced himself out. He didn't want to fight Francis. He wanted to sit there on Twitter and pretend like he did so people would keep, talking about John Jones.
No, this is crazy. This is like whenever Conor McGregor first went up to 155. And if he would have, whenever he lost to Nate Diaz, that was the first fight?
That was when he went up to 70.
He went up to 70?
It was supposed to be 55, and they said, hey, RDA's out.
Well, that was whenever he went up to 55 because he was wanting to fight for the title.
Oh,
right?
yeah, he went up to 55.
He was trying to fight for a title.
Yeah.
That would be like if he would have continued that fight and been like, okay, where's the belt?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like Nate Diaz is like, where's the belt?
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't happen. Like, you can't just say, these are my rules. You have to follow it. Like, the UFC, yes, they probably should pay their fighters more, but they have a pretty fair system on how they do things.
He's still going to get pay-per-view points, and he's still going to make what he's contracted to make. I don't know what his contract is, but whatever he makes, he's going to make. And pay-per-view points. So guess what? If you build the fight, that's the big thing that whenever people start ragging on McGregor, that's what I always say. What's the point of prize fighting? To make money. Who has made more money than McGregor? Absolutely no one. John Jones, actually, yes, he's, a lot of people consider him the greatest fighter in history. He's not a big seller. He does not sell that many pay-per-views.
It would be bad for him to have to sell the fight.
This would be the first time that really he doesn't have to have that bad blood between him and DC to sell it. And especially coming off of that...
Well, the one time he tried to sell a fight, he ended up fighting DC at a press conference and lost his Nike sponsorship.
Yeah, this was another flub on his part to me. And a lot of people are like, come on, UFC, pay him more money. I'm like, there's contracts for a reason.
Yes.
Do you know how many times they've probably went out on a limb to help John Jones in some of his situations? He's not a guy that I would go out on a limb to be like, hey, man, let me just spot you some money here. Like, you've done so much for us. Like, in the end, they're probably like, dude, you've cost us so much money, you bastard.
Yeah, no, and the thing is like, yes, he might be this great fighter, but he doesn't sell as much as most people do because A, people really are tired of the shtick, and B, he really doesn't have a shtick. He's just a really bad person. And that's a problem. So that's not going to sell. And if he thinks that he can sell these, if he thinks that he deserves all this money, take the pay-per-view points, make sure the card is loaded to the gourd because there are a lot of good fighters that would want to be on that same card just for the exposure, just for maybe if they could get in on pay-per-view points too, and you could make a killing.
Yeah.
Instead, he thinks that he deserves title fight money for not fighting a title. I just don't get it.
I don't understand it.
I
tried telling my boss I wanted boss man money. Turns out I didn't get it.
This would be the equivalent of, let's say, like a 145 or wanting to go up and just fight. Well, actually, let's just say Dominic Cruz. Everybody probably thinks that he might be the best one at that position, but he doesn't have the belt.
Yeah.
That would be like somebody wanting to go up and fight Dominic Cruz at 125 and say, I still deserve everything that I get, even though it's not a title fight. That's crazy to me. Any other MMA notes? Is John Jones the GOAT?
Not to me.
No. I agree.
We just talked about Lance Armstrong. He's had too many failed tests for me to even believe that he never touched anything.
I absolutely agree.
He's probably not even in my top 5. Once you test positive for a PED, I got to bounce you.
Yeah.
It's not cycling. This is people's brains and body parts we're talking about. Bounce them.
Bounce them. Nope, I agree. I 100% agree. So anything else that we need to talk about? Any movies, any shows, anything new? I smoked a pork butt this weekend. Absolutely dominated that thing.
Probably my new favorite thing is getting pictures and texts from Drake's cooking escapades.
Yeah,
He's like a newborn baby boy getting ready to walk. Like me and all my buddies, 'cause I'm older than you some bitches. When we were about 25, 26, we kind of discovered grilling. We did the same thing. We're like, hey, check this out. I did this today. Now I'm reliving it because you're sending me all these pictures. I'm like, oh, I remember the time I did my first pork butt.
Oh, yeah. No, it's delicious. Hey, you keep talking that trash, you might not get a pork butt this Saturday. I thought about grilling one up for the fight.
I've messed it up for all of us now.
Nobody's going to get a pork butt now. I might just grill a whole one for myself.
I'll just show up and you're just puking. You're just so fat and greasy.
I make myself go throw up just to eat more, so you can't have it.
Shackle for Camden.
Oh, by the way, did you see that the guy came out that owned the pizza joint that Michael Jordan claimed they had the food poisoning with?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I listened to his whole 20-minute interview. He was hilarious.
I completely forgot. That might have been the guy who took the most crap out of this whole documentary. Dude, if you know people, whenever he delivered that pizza to Michael Jordan, he probably called everybody he knew.
Oh, yeah.
Just gave Michael Jordan a pizza. Just gave Michael Jordan pizza. Those same people that he called on that day were calling him that Sunday saying, dude, you poisoned Michael Jordan?
I tagged Leighton on Twitter and put, this calls in your food poisoning story. This calls it into question too. Because I knew it sounded, I believe that man. He made a thin crust, large pepperoni. He did not poison it. He had a bet out on Jordan. No way he went against his own bet.
Absolutely not.
So yeah, I wouldn't bring that up because I wanted to defend this. I still stand by that I got food poisoning.
You might have, but Michael Jordan did not.
But we had the exact same symptoms over the same period of time. I don't think it was food poisoning, it was a different reason. You can find out what hotel the players are staying at. In Cincinnati this past year, we just happened to stumble upon the hotel the Patriots were staying in. I can walk inside. It was cool. You can figure that out. There is no way to figure out who's going to pull that person.
No.
And there's no way Michael Jordan's best friend and personal trainer for like 15 years are going to use Michael Jordan's name for ordering a pizza.
Who's this pizza for, sir? Michael Jordan. Oh, you mean the Bulls player? Yep.
Also, how many players did they say they called that night? A lot.
They said they called a bunch.
What was open?
But that guy on his story said that at the town at that time, like that, was it Pizza Hut? Or was
I
it
think he owned a
Domino's?
Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
That might be why the Pizza
No,
Hut
he didn't own it. He was the manager. So he was a manager of that pizza. He said they were the only one open past like 9 o'clock,
Yeah.
which brings into the question of why me growing up thought Salt Lake City was the most terrible place on earth. Like, the only place open is a Pizza Hut.
Do you see a coincidence that the Pizza Hut in our town shut down the same week that Michael Jordan said that he got sick by it?
It put him out of business. You may never see a Pizza Hut commercial again.
The only place open that night. I doubt the only place open had no people on staff to send 5 guys to one delivery.
He disputed it.
Because
He said it was 2 of them.
Yeah, he said it was just him and one other guy.
Yeah, so either. Yeah, but I don't believe if you're one of those people.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not lying about that. Not saying I'm not saying they didn't order a pizza.
Could you imagine opening the door and 5 pizza boys are standing there? Like, if it
Who
was,
eats that pizza? I'm telling you.
Michael Jordan spit on it too. He spit on it. They said that he spit on it so nobody else would eat any of it, and then ate the whole pizza.
I liked when he said, hey, can I say hi to him? And they just cracked the door a little more and he's like, hey. And they just shut the door on him. The story gets more, dude, that's going to be a story I bet in 50 years is going to be even. Yeah.
And I mean, how do you realistically poison a pizza? You know what I'm saying? To give somebody just food poisoning. Like, you're playing a fine line there.
I've worked some fast food restaurants. I've seen some shit, boys. I'm telling you.
No, I believe it. But no, it's such a weird little thing.
I
don't believe 5 guys showed up.
No, there's no way because
Dude, could you imagine
that many guys on staff, and then the whole freaking restaurant they close it down. They go Michael Jordan.
BRB poisoning Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
And there's like 5 of them riding over in like the minivan with the thing on the top. Pull up. Like you open up the door and is all 5 guys standing in the doorway? Or are there like 2 in the doorway, 3 down the hall peeking around the corners? Like I just feel like both of them should set off big alarms.
What's crazy to me is you said you found out what hotel teams were staying in like a year ago?
It was the past season, but it was an accident. People
By accident. Okay.
Not on accident. People were outside lined up.
You gotta think that they can lock them down a little better than that.
Okay,
Because I'd be worried about that shit all the time. Didn't they say LT used to like hire hookers and stuff and send them to opposing players' locker rooms and shit?
Nuh-uh. Did he really?
That's what I
don't know if it was him, but it was some player.
I think I've heard of an interview where LT was talking about like, now maybe if you're in the NFL, you know what other hotel, but just a regular Joe should not find out where Michael Jordan or LT or any player is staying.
Can I get a name for this delivery? Michael Jordan. The Michael Jordan.
We're also holding the sky. We're at this like viewpoint thing, 40 feet in the air, and we see like 2 blacked out buses and like 6 cop cars. Two.
Oh, I remember you sending that video.
Yeah, 2. And I was like, the Patriots? Pretty good chance.
You could have sent Tom a pizza, baby. Gluten free, no cheese, no crust, no pepperoni, no sauce. Just a cardboard box. Oh man, I'm glad you brought that up because when I saw that, I my immediate thought was this calls into question the LC poison story.
Yeah, no, I think that might have been a little bit of a stretch. But hey, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. I always have to say that. So anything else, any movies, shows that you guys watched that you felt like you needed to discuss?
We got a phone booth. We don't know if it didn't do a somehow. Colin Farrell and Forrest Whitaker.
Quick note: my wife, first movie she ever invited me to hang out with her. Quote
Phone booth.
Air quotes. Hang out with her. We watched that movie.
Phone booth. Yeah.
Phone booth.
Uh-oh. I like it.
It was fun.
Basically, Colin Farrell's an asshole. He's in the phone booth. This guy been tracking him for some time. Called the phone booth when he's in it, and basically ruins his life from there.
Huh. All right. So any dips?
1.9.
1.9.
Pretty good.
Mr. Shackelford, the night that you watched it, how many dips?
How you did?
I watched to tell you how my night went. I watched the entire movie.
Except for 45 seconds of the middle of it.
Have a good week. So
3 dips?
3 dips.
All right. So anything else?
There you go.
All right. And on that note, for Drake, Mr. Shackelford, and Leighton C. Dippers, as always, stay saucy.